Morning, Eddie. Firstly, Fabian Schar, a new contract announced by the club yesterday. How pleased are you to extend his stay with Newcastle?
Yeah, firstly, let me start by saying if I speak a little bit funny, I had a day at the dentist yesterday, so apologies if I sound a bit weird. Try and get through normally. Fabian, yeah, delighted he signed. Delighted. He's been really good this year for us. Trains well, very popular within the squad. He's contributed. He's been an ever-present, really, when he's been fit. So, yeah, really pleased that he's committed.
I want to ask you about a couple of players that have been carrying knocks. You mentioned after the match on Wednesday night that Kieran Trippier was feeling an issue in his groin, and Alexander Isak as well. How are they doing?
I'll wait and see today, really, Razor. Of course, I've had medical updates yesterday, but I'll see them for the first time today. So hopefully they're feeling okay. We don't think we've got any big injuries from Wednesday night, but we've certainly got a few niggles. So let's wait and see.
And how is Anthony Gordon doing? And has he returned to full training ahead of Leicester?
No, he hasn't. No, not yet. He's another one that we're monitoring. We think he's still recovering really from the really bad knock he got for England, which still got a huge bruising on his leg. So he's done individual training. He's not done group training. He's still not feeling 100% pain-free. So again, let's wait and see.
In Gordon's absence through suspension, Harvey Barnes has started the last 3 matches and has done well for you, hasn't he? It's been a while since he's had a run in the team, but how pleased have you been with his performances? Yeah,
really pleased. I think Harvey been chomping at the bit to play. He's been desperate to showcase what he can do. He brings unique things to the team. He's definitely a goal threat. Yeah, I think he had 7 shots against Brentford off both sides of the pitch. I trust him a lot. I think he's got a lot of great attributes that we want in the team. So I've been really happy. I've been really happy with how he's come into the team and built relationships with likes of Joe Linton and Tino Livramento, who's playing on the other side. I think they've done really well. They've been a consistent threat down that left-hand side. So delighted with that side of the pitch.
And can this be an opportunity for Barnes to stay in the team? Think back to earlier in the season when Anthony Gordon was playing on the right at times. Harvey Barnes scored a lot of goals, was on the left. Since then, Jacob Murphy's been in incredible form, but he's had the opportunity, and I suppose if he keeps playing well, then he could stay there. Yeah,
I think that's the message to any player. When you get your opportunity, you've got to try and take it. You've got to try and grab it and make it impossible for me to take you out. So that's the challenge for Harvey, and hopefully he continues to play well.
What do you think about the situation Leicester are in? They're on a long run of defeats and quite a way back from safety. Now it looks tough for them, but mathematically they're not out of it.
No, they're not out of it, and I think they'll believe they still have a chance. I think I always look at how a team plays, and I think Leicester have been very competitive. The results don't necessarily show that, but I look back to the Manchester United game where I thought they would win the game, and they had chances to score, and then the result is really deceiving, I think, in the overall strength of their team, and I think that's been consistent for them. So we know they're dangerous. We know they've got good players. Jamie Vardy's still a massive threat. He brings his unique qualities that we're going to need to control. Rude's got his team playing good football as well. So we're going to have to be on our guard. There's no easy games at this level.
Thanks, Razor. Keith?
Eddie, just one from me if you don't mind. Ange Postecoglou last night, unhappy at the amount of time it was taking for a VAR check and decision. As a fellow manager, do you understand that? How do you feel about the length of time it takes?
Yeah, I think I was looking at it from the supporters' perspective, and I don't think you want VAR decisions to take that long. Generally, I think we want a quicker process. 6 minutes is too long. I didn't actually see the incident at the time, but yeah, that's far too long for me. And I feel for the supporters more than anybody.
Andy?
Morning, Eddie. Talk about the players' team news. No one likes dentist work. It's been the work. Are you okay?
It's been quite a bit in there. Yeah, it's all good though. It's all good.
Good. Sandro Tonali. Everyone, I think, was trying to wrap their heads around the maths, weren't they, the other night? 70% cross, 30% shot. Have you worked out the maths yet? And do your players need to be a little bit less honest? Because if he'd said he'd gone for it, could have been looking at a Puskas Award next year.
Yeah, I didn't spend any time doing the maths. I was hoping that you'd have done it for me. Yeah, no, Sandro's answered the question as he sees fit. I think, I don't know, I think there's always a bit of, when you're making decisions on the pitch, there's always lots of different thoughts going through your mind. He struck it, I think he's probably looking to hit it low and hard into the box and create a difficult moment for Brentford's defenders. So who's to, take the intent away from him?
Seriously speaking, on that midfield, I think all we did at the start of the season was talk about the midfield balance of that midfield three. Now that they've found the balance, is this one of the best balanced midfielders in the midfields in the Premier League right now between Sandro, Bruno and Joelinton?
Yeah, I think it's difficult for me to give sort of a definitive answer, but I think just looking at those individual players, they all bring something different, and I think that when you talk about balance, that's what you want. So you want sort of the creativity that Bruno can bring us, the good decision making that Sandro brings us, and then Joelinton's physical presence. Sort of add that together, and you've got a little bit of everything. Although you can think that before bringing them together, sometimes the chemistry you can't measure. Chemistry is just as important. That's why you see some players play better with others, and sometimes there's no logic behind it. It just happens because the players express themselves in that way together. I think that they're getting there. I think with every game, maybe the understanding of each other gets better and stronger. But then you add Joe Willock to the mix. You add the other midfielders, Sean Longstaff, Louis Miley. We've got good players in that position, and they all have big strengths that we need.
We spoke about how important that Brentford win was, but is it the nature of that sort of gritty performance produced consistently that's going to be the difference between potentially Champions League football and no Champions League football this season?
Yeah, possibly. I think finding a way to win in really tight games is key. And that was one where you're looking 1-1 with a period of the game left. You're thinking, right, how do we find a way to win? We weren't necessarily the dominant team in that moment. We were early in the game. We'd lost that a little bit. And you go back to games like Fulham, which we ended up losing. That can really hurt you. So, yes, I'd like to think that we're getting more experience and more confidence as the games go by. And I think we understand that the tight games are the ones that really matter.
And just finally, great to see Fabian extend his deal here at Newcastle United. What do you think in years and years to come supporters will kind of look back on and remember Fabian? How do you think they'll remember him as a Newcastle United player over the years?
I think they'll remember him as the unique player that he is. I think a defender that's not orthodox. He does things that he probably shouldn't be doing, like his finish against Liverpool. He has no right to score from there. And I can add other goals to that where you think, wow, he's class. He's just got moments where you go, wow, what a pass. I think he did one against Brentford the other day where he passed it into Alex's feet from 30 yards away. I don't think anyone sees that pass on the pitch. I think his defensive work since I've been here has definitely improved. And I think as a defender, you're always judged against that first. So he was part of a defensive unit that conceded the joint lowest number of goals in the Premier League. I think he'll take probably as much pride from that as he will as the other bits of his game. So he needs to continue that improvement.
Thanks, Andy. Jerry?
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
Just to pick up on the injuries point, you said after the Brentford game, I think your words were that you have a wafer-thin squad, not for the first time. How much of a concern for you is that for the coming weeks?
Yeah, especially with the number of games we've got in a short period of time. We have, I think, 3 games in 6 days. That will be a testing period for us. But, yeah, we just got to try and manage and navigate this period really sensibly with the players that we do have fit. And we need to look after everybody. I think if we can get a good, strong team on the pitch, I think we're good enough.
Leicester haven't won a point, and I don't think they've scored even in their last 7 games. So it's going to be tempting for fans to think this has got to be, with current form, a bound-to-win game. But given that you've described your running as like having 9 cup finals, is it fair to say, of all the 9 games, this is a must-win game?
I think they're all must-win games. I don't think we look any game any differently. And we respect every opponent, and we respect Leicester. And we know that they have qualities. And if we drop our levels, as we found many times this season already, what the media will categorise into one group of game, it doesn't exist. So we need to go there with our best attitude and our best performance.
Did you see enough from the Brentford game to convince you that after all the excitement and the joy and the highs of the last few weeks that the players are 100% refocused now? Or is it good to keep some of that momentum and that pride in these next few games to say, well, if we can beat Liverpool, we can beat anybody?
Yeah, I think, of course, you need to take the confidence. Confidence is so fragile, as we know. So when you have it, you don't want to lose it. And you don't lose it by being professional. You don't lose it by giving your best in training every day. And I think that's the sort of, this time is where we have to really double down on our standards and make sure we're professional, which we have been. I'm pleased we got the Brentford game out of the way, and I'm pleased we won. I think we'll improve from the game. I've got no doubt we can play better than that.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. We've got Damien Sparman, Lee Ryder, then Ian Murtagh.
Eddie, you spoke the other night about Tino Livramento and how well he's done since switching sides in the last few games. When you bought him, you obviously bought a player of potential, but could you have expected him to have developed as quickly as he has? And what is the challenge to him now?
Yeah, I'd known Tino, or not known him personally, but watched him for a long time. Knew and watched him at Chelsea, really excited by him. Watched him on the international stage at youth level. Watched him for Southampton in his first taste of the Premier League, and I thought he was, really, really good. But you never know how the progress of that player will fit into your philosophy and your way of working, and also how his character will fit with the squads. Again, another really popular member of the dressing room, really well liked. He's got a really laid back but professional manner. I've been really impressed with how he's adapted to playing on the opposite side of the pitch. He did it for us last season and did it really well for a number of games, and he's done it well again. And arguably, if anything, attacks better off that left-hand side than he has off the right, which, he hung up a couple of crosses recently off his left foot, one for Joe Willock against Brighton and one right at the start of the Brentford game, which Alex nearly scored from. He shows his left foot's very, very strong.
Lee?
Just with Alex, is the groin injury something he's been carrying?
No, I don't think he's been carrying. I think it was in the warm-up of the game before Brentford. Just became aware of it, I believe, and sort of carried that through the game.
And I'm just looking back on the international fixtures I was watching as he was playing full 90 minutes against Northern Ireland and 61 minutes against Luxembourg. Do you have any control over that? Do you have any sort of communication with Sweden on that one?
No, we wouldn't have any control over that. If he's declared fit, the national team manager will have full rights to do what he wants with the player. But I think Sweden would recognise that we have to look after him. They would want to look after him. They want to keep him fit just as much as we do. Yeah, I just think it's one of those things. Alex felt good going into the game. There was no problems. And I think sometimes you just have to let the players play. Now, he felt something, but it wasn't enough to stop him. He felt he could play, wanted to play. Scored, so we're pleased with that. And now we've got to try and make sure he's fit for Leicester.
Thanks, Lee. We'll go to Ian Murtagh, Chris Waugh and Jordan Cronin.
Good morning, Eddie. Jacob Murphy, yet another assistant on Wednesday night. He's always had good runs in his side under your management, but this season he's become almost a permanent fixture. Back in August, did you honestly see him playing this number of games?
Yeah, I think Jacob's been excellent for me since I've been at the football club. I think he's always got that ability to affect games, and he's always had that. He's a very, very good crosser of the ball, as we saw against Brentford. I mean, the ball he put in for Alex was pinpoint, and he's done that consistently. And those two players, albeit from longer range than a normal, really telepathic relationship. Of course, Murph's crossing the ball a lot of the time from wide. Alex seems to know where the ball's going to go. So, yeah, they've developed a really good relationship. But I think Murph's been excellent. I think he's been creative. He's defended really well as well for a wide player. He's very diligent. We ask him to do different jobs, as we did against Brentford. Did it really well. His tactical understanding is really high.
Just on another player, beginning of the season, Sean Longstaff was the midfield you needed in the side to win games. He's become something of a forgotten man, not with you obviously, but in the outside world. What is his role in the weeks ahead and his future in Newcastle?
Yeah, well, his role is to be ready to play, be ready to come on, and I've trusted him in big games where he has come on and played his part in the wins that you mentioned. We're going to need the whole squad to help us in our league season. We've got 9 massive games to come. Everybody needs to be ready to play. I think his long-term future is slightly more unclear, but all I can say behind the scenes, Sean's been very, very good. He's been helping the group. He's been training to a really high level. Can't speak highly enough of him as a person.
Thanks, Ian. Chris?
Morning, Eddie. Last season, it was sort of well documented that away from home, the team had a lot of struggles. This year, I think you're fourth in the Premier League away table. I know that you said that was something you wanted to address. Why do you think the form has been so different?
It's a difficult one to give absolute clarity on that. I do think we have a good counter-attacking team, and naturally, I think sometimes when you're away from home, you'll end up counter-attacking a little bit more. I think we've got good pace. I think we are a threat in those moments. But I think your away form is always based on character. It's always based on resilience. It's always based on your ability to defend first. And if you have a solid foundation, I think you've got a chance of winning games. So I'd probably put it down to that as the first port of call. Now, we know early season we had a few issues defensively. I think we've improved of late. I've been pleased to see us become a bit more harder to score against, and still that's an area we need to focus on.
And just on that as well, Alexander Isak, of his 20 goals, 10 of them have been away from home as well. Sometimes you get it with strikers where they almost score more at home and maybe struggle away from home. How have you managed to really get him those goals away from home? How has he really improved that as well?
Well, you're right. It's a great stat to have because you don't want to become home dominant. You don't want to be able to just perform in front of the Newcastle supporters, and with that positive feel, you've got to do it in every environment. I think how we've tried to do it is be consistent, so we don't change the way we play depending on whether we're home or away. We always tactically tweak things depending on who we're playing, but there's not a mindset shift when we're away from home. I don't believe in that.
Okay, Jordan Cronin, Craig Hope and Martin Hardy.
How is Joe Linton, and do you expect him to play through the little niggle injury that he's got?
We hope so, yeah. He'd be another one in the category that's got a niggle. But knowing Joey, he'll probably say he's fine today and good to train. So we'll have to manage him and we'll have to look after him and try and navigate the next few days.
And has the last 3 games shown exactly why you want to keep Kieran Trippier at the football club, not just because of leadership, but because he's still a very, very good footballer?
Yeah, I think Kieran has been excellent in the last 2 games. And again, if you look at his direct opponents, I think he's done a really good job on them. I think he's shown that he can still defend, which is, as a defender, the first port of call. Can you defend well enough? And the resounding answer to that has been yes. It's unquestioned his ability on the ball. And we need to work better as a team to try and get him in the final third a little bit more, because his attacking play and his crossing is second to none as well. So really, really pleased with Kieran. It's been a very good return to the team.
Thank you. Greg?
Morning, Eddie. I appreciate this question comes at a time when we're discussing Alex potentially having a knock and being a doubt for Monday, but this idea that Alex continues to be injury prone to a degree, is that a myth? You actually look at the stats and there's only Bruno and Dan Burns started more Premier League games than him this season, and they play every week. How have you got him to that point where he's able to score 20 goals in consecutive seasons? And is that nonsense now, this idea that he does have an issue with injuries?
Yeah, I'd say, from speaking on my behalf, as a very injury prone player, you should look at my record. That's an injury prone player. Alex certainly isn't. He's had issues, I think, with a groin problem that tends to rear its head now and then. It came to the fore just before we played Liverpool, but with rest he was fine and he was good to go and played really well in the cup final. And for whatever reason, it just resurfaced just before Brentford. But I think it's a minor, very minor problem that will go away quite quickly.
In terms of that bigger picture with regards to fitness, is it as much a mindset thing at times? Have you worked on Alex? If you look at his fitness record and his time at the club, it's actually got better and better, his availability. Is that something you've worked on physically or mentally?
Well, I think it's something we work on physically, with all of our players. I think there's a myth that if you train lightly and don't do too much with them, then everyone will be fit for the Saturday. It's actually the opposite. You've got to work your players. You've got to build up their robustness. So when the game comes, they're able to execute what they need to execute, and they can do it with no problem. So it's getting them on the training ground consistently. And the players that miss training regularly, they're become the problem players. So for Alex has been a regular trainer. He's been there, he's done the work, he's trained very well, and that's reflected, I think, in his performances.
Okay, well, Martin Hardy, Kieran Kelly and Louise Taylor. Martin?
Hi, Eddie. Along a similar lines with regards to Alex, you have seen a significant increase in his appearance from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. So how have you managed him, and have you made him more robust for the Premier League?
Well, we've tried to. I think he's very professional. I have to say that regarding Alex. He has his won't say his own physio, but he has a physio that he uses in conjunction with the football club that he'll fly in and fly out, but we certainly back that. We've got good relationships with the people that try and look after him. And of course we have our own staff, and he's got several staff members who he's very close with. It's about building those relationships and that trust so that he knows that we're doing the right work for him and his body. And then, of course, Alex has to be professional himself in the times where we don't see him, and he has to look after himself and dedicate himself for football. It's the only way he's going to get to the absolute top and maximise his career.
And does he have a different kind of physique for a number 9? And is that what you have to kind of work with him?
Yeah, everything has to be individualised for him, because he's not the same as, say, for example, Callum Wilson or Will Asula. They're very different physical profiles, so the work you do with them has to match that profile. So yeah, we do that with all our players. We try and individualise everything, give them individually what they need for their own benefit.
And how much more is there still to come from Alex?
In what sense? Physically?
Sorry, as a player?
As a player? No, there's loads more to come. There's loads more. And I believe that with everybody. If I didn't, that'd be the wrong coach for him.
Thanks, Martin. Kieran?
Morning. Sandro felt a very unique signing at the time. Given the small pool of players that actually improved the team, the rules, will you be able to bring in that sort of profile again, or do you think you have to recruit differently now?
Yeah, with Sandro, it was a tough transfer. I mean, it wasn't an easy deal to get over the line. In the respect that you have to get everyone to agree, and that includes Milan, that includes Sandro, his representatives. They have to see that as the best move for him in his career at that moment. That's not an easy thing to do for such a high-profile player at such a big club. So, of course, the Champions League football helped for our cause massively. But yeah, it was a tough deal, but we're delighted to get it over the line. Now, I don't know if we can look at it in any deal in isolation. I think we have to. Sorry, as a sort of an overview, you have to look at it in isolation. You have to look at and go, we have this positional need. Who's the best player to fill it? I don't think you can go in going, it's not going to be a high-profile player, or it's going to be a younger player. You have to look what you need in that position.
Given how stressful last summer was with the relationships now in place, do you feel you're in a better position to attack that window maybe?
Well, I'd like to think we're in a better position regarding PSR, and I think that's the key thing. Last summer, we knew from the outset it was going to be very, very difficult, and it turned out to be that way. So hopefully this season, or this summer, has a totally different view.
Thanks, Kieran. We'll go to Louise, and then we'll finish with Dominic Skirt.
Hi, Eddie. There was, talking of Kieran Trippier, who's obviously been playing so fantastically well, there was, just over a year ago, there was that bid from Bayern Munich. There's obviously serious interest. And with the PSR situation, there was perhaps an argument that it was tempting to sell him at that stage in his career, in his life. Did you have to fight very hard to keep him? And if so, do you feel vindicated now?
I think there's misleading things regarding PSR, because every deal you can look at on paper, but the actual PSR effect is totally different once you've gone through the whole detail of what it means. So I don't think there was any big PSR benefit from selling Kieran, and I think that does factor into a lot of our decision making. Just purely from a football perspective, there's no way I wanted to lose him. He was too important, and he remains too important on various levels. We need his experience, his winning mentality, and his quality on the pitch.
Did you have to have some difficult conversations with him when he wasn't in the team? Because he obviously wants to play, and he's a key influence on the squad. You can see him when he's been a sub, shouting instructions. And I mean, did you have to sit down with him and discuss things?
I think I always communicate with the players, but I have to say Kieran handled himself impeccably when he was out the team. He trained really well. He supported the players, and you can see that shouting on the touchline is genuine. He wants to help. He wants the team to win. Very selfless. That's what makes him the leader that he is.
Thanks, Louise. Dominic?
Morning, Eddie. You touch on Fabian Schar's contract. Sean Longstaff's long-term future maybe being slightly unclear. Does the guarantee of European football for next season almost focus your plans in the transfer market and maybe impact players who stay at the club and who are handed new deals?
Yeah, I think Europe will play a part in that. Quite how that looks, I don't know, because we haven't sat and had those discussions yet. I think there's far too much football to be played. But I think we'll be in a stronger position for the better competition that we're in. And our aim is to try and do as well as we can, of course. But I think for the current players, we know that we know where we want to be and what we want to try and achieve. So all aims are on that at the moment.
So in terms of new contract announcements, you wouldn't expect anything more before the end of the season?
Who knows?